Hello there, everybody. I'm Kevin Logan. I'm using the internet, and joining me using, I think, a tin can and a rope. It's
5G.
It's Dr. Christy Winters.
I don't know what G this is. Is it 4G? Is it 5G?
You're the OG.
That's cute.
Christy. Yeah, what's a haps?
It's Tuesday. It's the Tuesday before Easter weekend. It's a short week, just 2 more days of work, then a 4-day weekend. How about you for you?
Well, I meant more like why are you on a phone?
Oh, right, yeah. So on my internet, I don't know, it won't connect. And it was working fine before because I was watching some true crime stuff, and then I started to put everything together to get together. It's a long story, but I had to disassemble. I took my laptop in the other room, so I had to come back here, put it all back together for the stream. And the internet just won't turn on.
Yeah.
It's been like 5 minutes now. It's just rejecting my Discord update. It's just pinging around. So, yeah, this is how we're doing it tonight, I guess. I mean, I've got plenty of minutes. I hardly ever make phone calls.
Yeah.
So,
well,
it's fine.
Talking of true crime stuff, there's a thing.
There's a thing?
Did you not see? Did you not see in the mess? I literally sent you a fucking thing. It's the only link I sent you.
You sent me a link to this chat. And you sent me a link to the Twitch show. in the blue sky, I clicked your link and it took me to the show.
Where's that?
It wasn't the meat. It wasn't the meat link. It was the show link.
I haven't sent you the show link.
In the DM, you did, yeah. In Blue Sky.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't fucking know. Okay.
So,
Anyway, I sent you.
Also, I was
I
doing
sent you.
tech stuff, so.
No, this was earlier. I sent you the thing about the Jack the Ripper thing.
Oh yeah, the documentary thing that we're gonna watch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of a true crimey thing.
It is very much. It is like the first. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people think of him as being the first serial killer, even though the term itself hadn't been coined yet.
And he definitely wasn't.
Very famous. No, I mean there were lots of serial killers. I mean, people were fucking crazy. Like think of how many people the average Roman soldier killed in the course of his service.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, indeed.
I know people go, "That's war." Like, well, you're still killing a bunch of people. I mean, it's.
But that's not murder. War isn't.
It's you don't know why
killing.
They joined the army.
It's killing, sure. But it's definitely classified differently than murder, isn't it?
Well, yes, but I think actually Caesar says something about trying to weed out soldiers who enjoy killing too much from the ranks because they can't be trusted to be disciplined. Do you remember that?
But he was a massive guy, so who cares?
So anyway, we're gonna watch some Jack the Ripper tonight?
Well, no, because that's the point of the video, in a way. It's that
I was in class all day. That's why I wasn't able to engage very much with you.
No, that's fine, and I'm glad you didn't watch it because, like, I want to get your sort of take on it because it's a much more interesting take on the story of the story, so to speak, rather than.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we'll go into it. I've had quite a journey with the Jack the Ripper thing over the last couple of weeks. I'll get into it when we get to it. Yeah. But yeah, we need to find out whether you can see things that I want to show you. Hang on. What happened there? What?
I just raised my hand.
Don't do that, because I'll fucking kick you. I'll kick you. Can I stop you from doing that? Can I take away your privileges?
I don't think you can, but now that I know that it annoys you.
I could remove you. I could remove you from the call. That's what I could do.
That was the biggest laugh I've had all day. Oh, I'm crying. Oh my god.
Can I do that?
Daniel video that I sent you. I sent you the video about Daniel, right?
About Daniel? Who's Daniel?
Yeah. I must have sent you the video about Daniel because it's fucking hilarious.
I don't know, Christy. You've sent me like 50 fucking things, so I don't know.
This one I almost died. Do you want to see it? You see the thing that made me laugh almost as hard?
Yeah. The thing is, you don't. Is the one where it says "I died"?
He says I died, or I said I died.
No, you did. You literally said "I died."
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've done that on a couple of them, to be fair. So it's kind of hard to tell them apart. It was about the couple who were doing the challenge.
Blink, Daniel, blink. Right. Okay.
Yes.
This is the one. Right.
Yes.
Right. You literally put "I died" as a link. Now, how the fuck am I supposed to label that on a wheel? You are not making that easy for me.
I need to mute myself so I can stop laughing. By the way, I can see, so we're all good.
Okay, good. Right, hang on. I need to get rid of that. There we go. Right. So this is day 25 of 31 intimacy challenge. We are having segs every day for the month of July. Right.
Intimacy challenge, and we wanted to do a little check-in. Personally, it helped me pursue Daniel more. I just think that becoming a mom, it can be all.
The guy busted so much he gave himself a lobotomy. That's not Daniel anymore, that's Dan. That's just Daniel now. She took all the D away. Give that man some electros like blink, Daniel, blink. He looks like he is buffering while others are dying of thirst. This man is drowning. Is he even able to consent at this point? Bro is neither here nor there. Bro is in the pause menu. Bro is at 1%. Bro is out of ammo. Bro can hear colors. Blink, Daniel, blink. Checking sister is check. Engine light is on. The lights are on, but nobody's home. But look how calm he is. Daniel, blink if you need help. Blink, Daniel, blink. Yep, we lost him. Shameless people.
Oh my god. I was crying. I was crying last night.
It's just annual. She took all the D away.
Dude is in the pause menu. Dude is at 1%. Dude is out of ammo. Dude can hear colors.
But look how calm he is. Love it. Love it.
So good.
Okay. Well, you've sent me lots of other things.
I did.
This is the future we've been waiting for. Unclog your drain like a real man. Okay. I mean,
Oh man, fuck this. I'm just gonna do the whole show from my phone. It's actually not that bad. It's actually quite comfortable, and as long as my audio isn't terrible. Whoa.
No, it worked. It worked. I mean, you broke whatever the fuck that is, but yeah,
I love the visual of the explosion just lighting up the paper.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure the pipes are not damaged at all. That's
No,
fine.
I'm sure they're fine.
Absolutely,
That's
lovely
hardcore.
Stuff. That is hard. That's plumbing the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, explosions.
I don't know what the hell is happening. Daniel getting a run for her money. Danzy getting a run for her money. Oh!
Oh.
Hang on a
This
minute.
lady, Kevin. I think I found your new crush.
Okay, let's go. What we got here?
Not the enemy. Tesla is an American company. Praying peace, prosperity, and protection in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, God's Son.
What?
Satan is the enemy, seeking to kill, steal, and destroy our country. Praying wisdom, peace, and protection in the mighty name of Jesus.
This is just elder abuse. This is just allowing a mentalist to do mental. God almighty.
Jesus Christ, God's Son. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus.
Yeah, I'm sure he fucking does.
Look at it. She's signing, but it's not sign language. It's just some kind of fucking like hand gestures.
I think it might be a seizure.
Loves me. Yes, Jesus.
She's got a guitar right there. Like,
She can't play it.
yeah. Fair enough.
Loves me. The Bible tells me so. Tesla.
Well, Christy, I think I've got someone who can give her a run for her money in terms of
Oh, really? I want to hear that.
Tesla
No.
dick riding and terrible music. It's an old
Yeah.
It's an old favourite, Christy.
Oh, God, is it Flogina?
Flogina's in the building.
Y'all know what I be on, tryna ball like Elon. Y'all know what I be on, tryna ball like Elon. Y'all know what I be on,
Wait,
tryna ball like Elon.
is he saying vol? VOL? Like voltage or ball?
Ball, I think. Yeah.
That's not what it's. I had to hear it 3 times before ball even became a possibility.
A ball like Elon. This is what
Why?
I'd be
He
on.
can't even play Path of Exile 2. Like, he does not ball.
No, that's true. That's true.
I put some stars up on my ceiling. Y'all know what I be on, tryna ball like Elon. Y'all know what I be on, tryna ball like Elon.
Oh my
Y'all know
God.
what I be on, tryna ball like Elon. Sky's the limit, so I put some stars up on my ceiling. Hey, first of all, I'm bursting off like we in SpaceX. I put the work in, I deserve to get these paychecks. And speaking
Oh
He
my
did a
God.
rhyme. He did a single actual rhyme.
Wow. How many minutes into the song are we now?
Nearly a full minute. SpaceX and paychecks. You know what? I'll give it to him for once. Dear Christ Almighty, he did a rhyme.
One rhyme per
I mean,
minute.
it's still shit. Like I'm not gonna say it's anything other than that. It is still dog shit, but it does technically rhyme.
Look, it's 55 seconds of repetition followed by a single rhyme.
He's getting better.
Filler plus one rhyme. Yeah.
Usually it's 2 minutes of there's cocaine in the White House, cocaine in the White House, there's cocaine in the White House, cocaine in the White House.
Yeah. He doesn't really like to use words in his songs.
I would say he goes for the minimalist approach. Efficiency!
One way of looking at it.
Yeah, yeah. And if you want a ball like Elon, you can give me money. What the fuck? What kind of segue is that, Logan?
Yours?
Yeah, true. Yeah, we'll get onto the 4chan hack thing in a second. Non-binary. It is in the title, so I was aware of it. Mainly because Christy told me, if I'm honest. But
oh yeah, I did mention I sent you that thing off Blue Sky.
You did. Yeah, you could do bits messages and subscriptions and memberships and super chats. You can scare the shit out of me. Although it's not very dark right now, so I'm probably alright, but you know.
It's obvious that y'all don't play chess. Cause if you did, you'd make moves and move your mouth way less. But anyway.
Okay, chess and less. 2 rhymes. He's getting the hang of it.
He doesn't play. You know, he doesn't play chess, right?
Well, no. It's again. I'm not arguing that it's a good bar. I literally just want him to be able to rhyme words with one another.
It seems very minimal.
Yeah. Well, look. He has set the bar so low that literally him just knowing that the ends of words are supposed to sound the same, and not just going. What was the one? What was the one from the other song he did with the Rose?
Oh, was that the Amber? Yeah.
Yeah, Amber Rose.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Someone will tell me. Someone will remember.
It was awful. I do remember it being awful. I think I memory hold that so that I never had to experience the cringe again.
Yeah, it was like the White House, but he said it really fucking weird. Like it was really mental. Anyway, I'm tempted to watch that song now because just so I can remember what the fuck it was.
Ain't trying to flex, I'm trying to motivate. Is you versus you, baby, the best ahead, time for this golden age. Thought I drowned in death, saw no escape. Thought I spent my whole life barely above water like the Golden Gate. But then I broke up out that.
What? Wait, over water or underwater? What?
I'm not sure. Oh, Office, that was it. And the Oval of Horse. The Oval of Horse. Because the word didn't rhyme. The word didn't rhyme. So he had to make Oval Office sound mental. So in Oval of Horse. It doesn't rhyme then. Choose different words. Because the two you've tried to rhyme don't.
Yeah. Pick a different word.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. Think harder.
Yeah, look, there are other things you can do. Oval Office, you could go White House, DC, Pennsylvania Avenue. There's lots of other synonyms for the basic idea of the place, the Oval Office.
I feel like, does he have, okay, I'm sure he has an account on X, right?
Almost certainly, yes.
I'm so tempted to have you, because I don't have an account on that hell site anymore, but just to fucking troll him, we should come up with a bunch of words and then have ChatGPT help us find the words that rhyme with it for chaos, deficit, tariffs,
SpongeBob,
global financial collapse, bond market dropping.
Yeah.
In Trumpflation, Trump session. What other words can we add Trump to that are terrible? Trump unemployment, Trump employment.
Yeti pubes.
Yeti pubes, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, get a haircut. Suck my dick.
No, your hair is gorgeous, Kevin.
Well, someone's like, get a haircut. Eat my dick.
Yeah.
Eat my dick. I can't help that you can't grow hair.
I like you, Shaggy.
I'm sure you do. Hey, Trumployment.
Trump unemployment, yeah. Got to figure out a better one for that. Trumpflation, Trump session.
That extra mundane. That almost works. Unemployment. Yeah. But Kev,
I mean,
what
so
is?
I'm still trying to figure out if he said I was over water like the Golden Gate Bridge or like the
Hang
Golden.
on. Well, I'll go back. We'll go back, Christy. We'll listen.
Okay.
For this golden age, thought I drowned in death, saw no escape. Thought I spent my whole life barely above water like the Golden Gate, but then I
Above.
Barely above water. Do you know how high above the fucking water the Golden Gate Bridge is?
Quite a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Has to allow tankers to go underneath it.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not. Also, I've just realised this is all AI. This image. These signs
Well,
don't.
so is his
these
lyrics.
signs don't mean anything.
Honestly, his lyrics would be better if they were AI.
Bishosh Eshwai Tahayi is
Oh,
one
is
of the
this
signs.
the fake signs in the back?
Yeah, I think the one that the front says Scoot Meow. What?
Scoot meow?
I think that's what it says. It looks like Scoot Meow. Chat. Am I going crazy, or does that say Scoot Meow? That's what it looks like to me.
Let me see. Which one are you looking right in the middle?
Bottom right. Literally the only sign that's in like the foreground.
Oh, I thought it says goon,
Goon.
but it could say scoot.
Oh, it could. Oh, wow. Or is it government but with two O's? So it's gooved. Meow.
There's something about like meatballs something means, and wait, are there people with guns on the top of the cars? This is the stupidest fucking.
Well, it's
AI.
AI slop, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get him to write and scoot meow with stuff.
Scoot meow, scoot.
Scoot, motherfucker. Oh, scoot, meow, meow.
Scoot meow.
about that mental prison like it's Alcatraz. Then I blacked out that Tesla truck and I called it Malcolm X. Get it? 'Cause
Oh,
No.
see, you were doing so well. Two
No.
rhymes, and then you had to go and try and rhyme Alcatraz with Malcolm X, when it doesn't fucking rhyme.
Not even close.
Doesn't make sense. I know
No.
Malcolm X and X, the company, have the same on SpaceX, like they have the X at the end, but what's the connection there between Malcolm X and anything? And it doesn't rhyme anyway.
Can you imagine what Malcolm X would have to say about Elon Musk?
Yeah. Like, what rhymes with Alcatraz? Pizzazz.
Alcatraz, yeah, pizzazz.
There isn't a lot. But you don't need to go with it. You could go,
I'm gonna Sing Sing.
yeah, Sing Sing, or
There's two
San
C's
Quentin.
in the word bottom.
Yep.
Kevin, FFS.
Yeah.
Or
I'm a
What was it?
taker
What
to
was
that
it?
rat's nest of a jungle
Johnny
of hair
Cash
one of
sang
them
about
days.
jails.
Stay despunkified, pay pigs.
something blues.
Yeah.
Folsom.
Folsom
Prison Blues.
Folsom Prison Blues, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or what's another famous prison? The Black Hole of Calcutta? That's a bit of a niche reference. But yeah, anyway.
That's a literary reference I'm sure he would never get.
Jazz, yeah. You could say, oh, I broke out of all Alcatraz and all that jazz. Or something. Yeah, you could do that. That's fine.
See, literally anybody could come up with a better rhyme than this guy.
Yeah. Well, or just a rhyme. Just a
Any
rhyme at all. Yeah.
Any rhyme would be a win.
Again, I'm not even asking him to be good at rapping. Just learn what the ends of words sound the same. That's all I'm asking for, and he can't do it. Thank you, Vogel, who says, there's two T's in the word bottom, Kev.
Bottom.
I'm a
No,
take a
bottom.
coat.
Bottle of water.
School shootings. Shut the fuck up. Jesus. Anyway. Nest. Oh, sorry, I forgot you're German now, aren't you?
Not quite, but I'm getting there.
Well, we don't want to go into it. German history is complicated.
Yeah, what, like British history? American history and-
No. Freedom. Shut up.
Yeah, freedom, eagles, flags.
Apple
Woo!
pie. Anyway,
Apple
they say
pie, yeah.
I'm gonna take a comb to that rat's nest of a jungle of hair one of them days. Stay despunkified, pay pigs. Thank you, Vogel. I mean, that is a very strange thing to say to another human being.
Stay despunkified, like Daniel.
Exactly. I'm on the fucking start menu.
You're the pause menu.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah. Don't say rat's nest as well, because literally the giant rats are taking over here. Did you see this, Christy? There was a person dressed as a rat turned up to the council meeting.
Nice.
Yeah. And they, obviously the newspapers interviewed them.
Yeah, of course.
Why
Because they're
wouldn't
like
you?
a cousin of Lord Binface.
Yeah. And now the big issue is rat tax.
Hmm?
Yeah. It's not really a tax technically, but in order to keep down rat populations, if there's an infestation in your residence, regardless of whether you're private or council, if you ring up the council, they'll come round and get rid of your rats. It's a
Well,
good
good.
way, because, you know, having pests controlled is good.
Yeah.
Uh,
For public health, yes.
Indeed. And that was always free, right? Because it's just
Yeah.
generally a good thing in general. Except now, now you have to pay like £26.
So the people who live in the worst housing, who are the least likely to have the £26,
Yeah.
are going to put off doing that and live with rats, and then
Yeah.
thereby make the situation worse, in order to save £26.
So, yeah, so in a city where we've literally got tens of thousands of tons of trash in the open and a massive booming rat infestation, the council are now forcing you to pay, on top of the already hugely inflated council tax rates, for you to get rid of the rats. So I, for one, welcome our vermin overlord. They're obviously going to take over and just fucking win, so just accept it, I think. Just give in to the rats.
My, oh my, oh my. What a chaos. You guys, it's the city of Birmingham in particular, isn't it?
It is. It's Birmingham City Council who are fucking shit. They're just shit.
Mhm.
Anyway. You know it's also shit? Ford GS
Florida?
Yeah.
Elon owns Tesla and X, and Malcolm was black. Never mind, I'll break it down so y'all don't have to guess.
What?
Know what I be on?
No idea.
Malcolm
None.
X.
No idea.
What's Malcolm X being black got to do with anything? Literally to do with anything.
Get some help.
Nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. Thank you, Political Poppy, for 24 months. That's 2 years.
Wow,
Of money
that's a
that
long time.
you've wasted. Think of what you could have done with it. You could have bought so many drugs. Honestly, you could have bought drugs. You could have got really fucking drunk. You could have just burned it. At least your hands would have been warm.
I mean, think if we
Mm-hmm.
could have spent that money at OnlyFans instead.
Exactly. You could have got some absolutely prime poontang. Or dick. I don't know what you're into.
No, well, yeah, more like probably self-pleasuring too. But the hope of it, but yeah.
No, that's what I mean. Like, to look at, you can get...
Yeah.
what do they call it? Where you get, like, special... Where you order a specific scene that they'll do for you or something.
Oh, I don't know how it works, but I'm sure that does.
Well,
you can get like a lap dance at a strip club kind of thing, right? But
Well,
on the internet?
Christy, you can get this lap dance here for free.
Yeah.
What song's that from again? God, I'm old. I don't know. Commission? Is that what it's called? I genuinely don't know. But yeah, you can get that. Why am I advertising like generically for pornography now? I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against it, but like I'm not being paid by big porno here.
You wish you were.
Yeah, the goon industrial complex are not, are not.
Honestly,
not
that is an advertiser who could stand to be like would have their reputations associated with you. Because it's definitely adult content
Yeah.
on this channel. Can't have any wholesome products, so you've got to get like Cornhub.
Cornhub or like gun running, maybe.
Who?
Gun running companies.
Oh no violence, just a little bit of consensual sex.
And consensual
Really
gun
bad-
running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you, American now?
Yeah. That's how it goes.
Right.
Oh, NERD lap dance, yeah. You can get this lap dance here for free. Do you remember when he was cool?
I don't know that song.
Pharrell.
Oh, Pharrell, yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that like the 2010s?
Yeah. No, well, it might have even been 2000s.
Yeah, that's
Because if it's a pop song that I know, it's before 2012. Because at about 2012, I just stopped. I let pop culture just go. Like I was keeping up with it. I was like, yeah. Oh, what are you now, pop culture? Oh, I'm indie music. Oh, cool. What are you? Oh no, it's too much. Go on without me. I couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
And
Just
now
get
I
your
don't.
canoe out of the river and just hang out for a while.
And now I look at like the Glastonbury lineup, and I'm like, I don't know who any of these pricks are. Apart from like occasionally I'll have on like Elton John or something. Like, yeah, I know who that prick is. But the rest, all of the cool bands that are like headlining, not the dickheads whose last album was out in 1996.
Yeah.
And they play at 2 in the afternoon.
Like Vampire Weekend and the Kaiser Chiefs and Franz
Oh,
Ferdinand.
love me some Kaiser Chiefs. Let's go.
Oh yeah, good stuff. Take me out. I say you don't know.
I'll be honest. Franz Ferdinand, they did make some tunes, but they did strike me very much as like art school twats.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. But it was still good to dance to. It's on the dance floor. Take me out. It's good I was describing Franz Ferdinand to someone like the band or the guy, and he's like, "What band?" And okay, I forgot you're a baby. But when I played the song, oh yeah, that's like the intro to some German talk show or a late night show or something like that. Apparently, still after all these years.
See, I don't appreciate this because that's just a mirror. That's literally just me.
I was wondering because I had minimized my screen and went, "That's a weird picture of Kevin."
Don't need that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, we're on a hype train or some shit. Yeah.
Oh, choo-choo.
Oh, but we've got 10 seconds, so don't bother giving me money because I didn't even advertise it
over.
during the actual thing. So don't bother. I don't deserve your recompense.
Oh, should we get back to the Flo China song?
Fuck it. I'm done with
him.
him.
Got distracted by a non-rhyme about Malcolm X being black.
Nice a bellend. I can't be bothered. I'm not wasting my fucking time. Thank you, Lord Freetus, for gifting a sub to Sean again. Much love. Yeah, no, I want to watch the Jack the Ripper thing that isn't about Jack the Ripper, really.
Okay,
Anyway.
did we get through all my funny clips, though?
No.
Or are we going to do that before?
No, but I don't... Christy, this is half an hour long.
It's fine.
If you want to go to bed
right.
at some point tonight, we need to start
All right,
this
I
soon.
will settle in. I will settle in. And
Yeah.
actually, this is really nice doing it on my phone because I'm like out in my living room. I'm all stretched out because I've moved my bed out now here, and I don't really have my recording area is not so comfortable, and I can stretch out. You know what the best thing though about doing it in my living room is? I don't have to stay sat cross-legged for 3 hours straight.
Fair enough.
Because
Yes.
you sit in a chair, right? I sit
Yes.
right up in front of a table, like with my knees near it, and I sat cross-legged. Hours. So this is very comfortable.
Why don't you get a chair?
Because the bed's in the way. I sit on the bed. It's all very complicated.
It's not that complicated. Get a
No, it
chair
is,
and a
'cause
table.
I don't have any room. No, the bed takes up the entire space. Like the bed.
But you have a
just
different
fits.
room. You don't know what...
No, I have a living room, and then I
Yeah.
have a bedroom,
Yeah.
and my computer is set up in my bedroom with my, everything.
Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna go and fucking
Yeah, just hit play. Just hit play.
just end it. I think just end all of existence. Anyway, no. Before...
Oh, Kevin, I can do something to make you feel better.
Okay, but not on screen, obviously. Jesus. That's very amusing and very grown up of you. See, we're about to watch a thing about misogyny. Don't make me be misogynistic towards you. Okay. Anyway, so this I've been on something of a weird one with the Jack the Ripper thing over the last couple of weeks because I've been a bit sniffy about like the real crime stuff.
True crime stuff. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh,
yeah.
true crime. Yeah. And I've always felt it was a bit I don't know, like a bit prurient or a bit like
Morbid.
Salacious.
Morbid curiosity.
Yeah.
A little bit unseemly.
Anyway, so I've been watching some stuff, not of true crime, but about true crime, if that makes sense. So like about the culture of what that is.
Yeah.
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 And it sort of led me down this odd rabbit hole of the way in which people do profiteer off of violent crime, and not just they profiteer in the act of doing it. People like build entire economies, entire industries around, like, I mean, Jack the Ripper, right? The Ripper tours in London are extraordinarily popular and make a fortune. The amount of people that do those tours, right? And so anyway, I was led down this path, and a book recommendation which this person does mention in their video, which I read. It's a genuinely, this is 10 out of 10. A book called The Five by I did have the thing. I even specifically looked it up so I can fucking say it on screen, but for some reason my tablet now isn't working when I specifically need it to. By Hayley Rubenhold. Anyway, and the 5 refers to the 5 canonical murders, right? 1 second.
It's entertaining and every fan should be on a watch list.
Thank you, Marcus. I will, just because this is quite a serious topic, I will turn the alert box off now. But you can still give me money, but you won't be heard. Anyway, so it's about the 5 women who are thought canonically to have been killed by the Ripper. And it's a really brilliant book because it's about those people, but the actual descriptions of their deaths are almost non-existent. Because the whole point is...
book.
Yeah, because the whole point is that these people existed and were human beings. They're not valuable because they were murdered.
Mm-hmm.
That's, frankly, the least interesting thing that happened in their entire lives, really, because it was the end of things. And yet it's the only reason that people have ever even heard of them. And, like, I was genuinely shocked. Because, like, if I ask you, what did those women do? What would everyone say?
I think most people would assume that they were prostitutes because they were out at night.
Yeah.
And they were frequenting taverns and drinking establishments.
Yeah. So, like, that's the story that gets told. And I was absolutely, like, fine with that story. Now, again, just because someone is a prostitute doesn't mean that anything bad should ever happen to them.
100% not. No. Prostitutes bring joy to the world.
But
more than anybody.
So,
more than priests.
So I'm not...
pastors.
Yeah. So I'm not for a second saying that when I thought these people were prostitutes, I thought it was fine, because obviously not. But I bought into that narrative until you look into it, and actually they weren't. Like, literally. 3 of the 5 definitely weren't. One of them had been, through no fault of her own, in Sweden. I didn't even know one of them was Swedish, for a start off. That was a fucking revelation.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And was at no point had practiced prostitution in England, ever. The last one of them was a prostitute, but that's, again, neither here nor there. So the vast majority of the actual people who were killed weren't prostitutes at all. But yet that was essentially the way it was justified, in essence.
Also, I'm sure the media either portrayed it that way or let it be assumed.
Yeah.
Or people just use their Victorian approach to women's behaviors, thinking, oh, well, if you're out after dark on your own as a woman, you're a prostitute.
Yeah. So, like, this was... insane. It's a story that I thought I knew, reasonably well. I hadn't got a fucking clue, in all honesty.
And you love history, so it would have been, I'm sure, like, what?
Yeah.
What?
And I feel bad. Like, I feel like I want to time travel to go back, not just to save the women themselves, but, like, to apologise and be like, you've been fucking wronged for, like, 140 years now. 130 years? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mad shit.
Well, I think we can expand this out, like misogyny as a frame for history. When we read things about various women who were called she-wolves, whether it's Margaret, the French lady who came over and married Henry the Sixth and tried to rule in his stead, or any of the women who were queens who tried to exercise power in any way, and then later male writers slurred their names, and Mary Queen of Scots is a classic example. She made a lot of bad decisions, but not necessarily any worse than any of her male counterparts. The part of that is you have to kind of read through the misogyny and the that lens to try to get to the real woman underneath the male history.
Yeah. So I was wondering, I don't know if I can play this for Christy because I don't want her to think I'm being like anti her fucking thing. But actually, the person that makes this video, for a start off, go and subscribe to them. They're called the Museum Guide. They're fucking brilliant. Actually makes a really interesting point, which didn't just change my opinion about history, but about the way in which people relate to true crime as a thing. So I just thought we should watch this because it's a brilliant thing that isn't about Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, and also it's not about Trump, so that's really nice.
No, that is true. Although it is about the Jack the Ripper industry.
Okay, yeah.
Which is, yeah.
I mean, and you can, if you go to London, you can go on a Whitechurch, right?
Whitechapel.
Whitechapel, yeah. I'm sure there are plenty of tours that you can, like multiple tours that you can go on, books that have been written, series that have been done. I don't know if there's souvenirs about it. But...
Oh, God, Christy, there's so much. We'll see it in the video, and I don't want to ruin it for you, but there's a specific shop, which when I saw this, blew my mind. And it's only in passing. She literally just walks past it and is like, is that a real thing? And it is. It is a real thing. So the museum in question here is like exploitative shit, and she gets into that. But there's one specific shop she walks past in Whitechapel that's to do with the Ripper, which is the most disgustingly British thing I've ever seen. We'll get to it.
Okay.
I'm Jessica the Museum Guide, and I'm a former Jack the Ripper tour guide with a lot to say about Jack the Ripper tours and the Jack the Ripper Museum. Today I'm doing something I put off for many years. I'm visiting the controversial Jack the Ripper Museum on Cable Street in East London. I may not be the world's expert on Jack the Ripper, but I am an expert on museums and on the commemoration of murder victims, which I'll explain a bit more later on. I'm also a former Jack the Ripper tour guide. That's why today you're going to see me do something that I don't normally do, and that is absolutely slate a museum. When is the branding of a dapper Victorian gentleman going after the poor, unfortunate women of the East End turn into something that is a sick morality tale? We're going to explore that and more today on this tour as I visit the Jack the Ripper Museum on Cable Street and take you to some of the sites associated with the Ripper's crimes, and more importantly, with his victims' lives. But first, let me say welcome back.
Anyways, yeah, she does this thing about, like, oh, subscribe to the channel, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we don't need...
She's got a shill too.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Carry on. My patrons get tours around the world. Cobb over and have the Ripper Museum was... Now, let me preface this video by saying that the woman working at the Jack the Ripper Museum was absolutely lovely. I also want to acknowledge that I am deeply indebted to Hayley Rubenhold and her
book. Read this book. It's fucking amazing stuff. Amazing.
Yeah, women getting educated enough to do history transformed the way that history was thought about.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because literally in all of the investigation and all of the journalism and everything, there weren't any women. Women weren't involved in that at all. They were literally just victims. Mm-hmm. And victims who were blamed. Yeah.
Wonderful book, The Five. While I had been tossing these ideas around a lot in the years leading up to its publication, her sensitive, nuanced, and meticulous research about the lives of the Ripper's victims gave me so much to think about. I highly...
Honestly, as well, the Swedish woman's story is so breathtakingly awful. Like, prostitutes were treated badly here, yes. But I didn't realise in Sweden they were treated so appallingly. Because she'd been impregnated by a suitor, she wasn't even a prostitute at this point. She was put on what was called the Fallen Women's List, which was like a local. It was to do with the trying to stop the spread of venereal diseases. And so anyone who was ever put on that list, regardless of whether they were a sex worker or not, had to go and have their genitals publicly inspected every 2 weeks.
I heard about this. There was a great uproar over it, wasn't it?
It's the most insane shit ever. What the fuck? And because they didn't understand anything at all, she did end up getting, I think it was syphilis. And they didn't understand that just because the symptoms go away, it hasn't gone away. So
Yeah.
when she had oh god, she had fucking genital warts or something on her clitoris, awful stuff. And they treated that in the hospital, and then when it went away, she had to go back out there. And because she'd been put on this list, she was essentially then forced into having to become a prostitute, even though she hadn't been before.
Awful.
Yeah, amazing. So literally, it promoted the spread of venereal disease, as well as being one of the most inhumane punishments I've ever fucking heard of. The fuck? Well, publicly, as in naked in essentially a doctor's room with other people there. Yeah. So not like in the street or something, but like, you know, random fucking men poking around your bits every 2 weeks. God. Ugh.
I recommend reading her book. Now, let me be clear. As a former Jack the Ripper tour guide, I used to profit from the same lurid details of the murders of the 5, 6, 8, or even...
Yeah, this is the thing I had an issue with, right? Not with her specifically, because she seems to realise the folly of her ways. But, like, when you're going around doing these tours... I mean, I'm sure there are good historical ways you can do it that aren't, like, salacious and weird. But when you're going around, like, essentially... historically sticking your fingers in the fucking wounds of these people for money, does that not feel atrociously evil? Because, like, these were real human beings who were murdered on these spots, and you're just, like, raking in coin for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
don't-
there's also like battlefield tours that do. I guess it depends on what you like, kind of you're thinking. I guess you're right. The kind of tour. I mean, I could see a tour that talks about like police detective methods at the time, like the state of the police department, because I think it had only just recently formed in London.
Yeah, it was
When
certainly in
this
its
was going
infancy.
on?
Yeah, yeah.
And the problems of you know, just forensics, or how they handled crime scenes at the time, and the justice system. I think there's a deeply historical way that you can go about this to try to give people a glimpse into the past. And also, I think, and a lot of true crime does this today, they actually spend quite a lot of time discussing the person as who they were, what they liked, how they impacted people's lives, you know, and give a sense of the loss that is
Yeah.
felt because that of their murders, as opposed to, like, you know, see like a lot of documentaries on Ted Bundy where it's just random women, you know, and it's all about him, and the women are just, you know, numbers as you go through the series. So, and I think there's probably a lot of room, there has been a lot of room for ethical critique of this kind of content. So you're right, you can kind of do the stuff where, you know, you show the pictures of the bodies of the victims. That would be awful. Or you can talk about how, like, how bad policing was,
Yeah.
why it was desperately needed, and how it's moved on, and how we deal with things now.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure they have moved on that far. I mean,
Well, in terms of forensics.
Yeah, scientifically, enormously so. Yeah,
scientifically.
Yeah. Scientifically now, presumably he would have been caught, but although he may have taken precautions, given that he would have known. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, also just how quickly court cases got through the system back then, and
Yeah.
how few appeals people had.
Indeed, yeah. Because like I'm always reminded of the Yorkshire Ripper case, where it was specifically called that again because the people he killed were sex workers, so that it was like linked back to these people who weren't sex workers anyway.
Yeah.
And again, the
People
police,
always
the
assumed
police
that Mary
didn't.
Magdalene was a prostitute. It's never said.
Yeah.
They just assumed it because she was a woman without a husband.
And
That's
that,
the story.
yeah, and this happened in the late 70s, I think. In the Yorkshire Ripper, and like the police didn't care until a middle class girl got done.
Yeah.
Like that was literally
Yeah.
it was she was a university student. He killed loads and loads of prostitutes. Didn't give a fuck. They were just prostitutes. They didn't matter. And then one middle class girl got done. And by the way, she deserves justice too. I'm not having a dig there. I'm just saying, like, the police don't give a fuck. The police and the
Pretty white girl syndrome
the-
when it comes to
yeah.
the media's focus on which victims get national attention.
yeah, the police and journalists being wankers isn't new. That's
Do you
not
remember
a
that,
modern disease.
Remember that Stuart Lee bit about John Littlebottom?
Richard Littlejohn.
Richard Littlejohn. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And what a cunt he was about
Yeah,
calling her a prostitute. Yeah.
yeah. Not a person who works as a prostitute. Yeah,
Yes.
just evil, evil man.
Even 11 women that are referred to as the Whitechapel murder victims. I always tried to make my tours more sensitive to the victims and provide the subtleties missing from other tours, but the fact of the matter is that punters turned up to hear a sensationalized Victorian Gothic tale, and I was there to tell it, and make as much money as possible doing so. And that seems to be the MO of this museum as well.
Yeah, the worst thing of this, honestly, this place should be fucking shut down. They took the death images, the mortuary images of these people,
Yeah.
and AI'd them
Oh.
to get a picture of what they would have looked like when they were alive. Which is like...
Also, it's weird to hear Americans say the word punter, which is completely acceptable vocabulary in the UK, but like no American would ever say that in America.
True. I had a British person say sidewalk the other day, and I genuinely, I felt like putting on my red coat and firing a rifle at them.
Well, Jack the Ripper shot to infamy in 1888, at a time when speaking in public about sex and violence was quite taboo. But the murders of these women, some of whom sold sex for survival and others who were simply poor and addicted, gave people an opportunity to speak about sex at the breakfast table. The murders caused international shockwaves at a time when journalists were desperate for a story that would sell papers. And here, at this museum, it is being used to sell tickets at £12 per head. As we make our way into the museum, let me just start by saying the names of the 5 women often referred to as the canonical 5. Polly Nichols, Annie Chapman, Liz Stride, Catherine Kate Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. The museum has also included 3 additional women who are often associated with the murders: Martha Tabram, Emma Smith, and Alice Mackenzie, but their causes of death are different enough that they are usually believed to have been killed by a different person. Which begs the question why the museum chose to include them. Did the curators feel that 5 wasn't shocking enough? I know that when I used to do my preamble on walking tours, some people would almost seem disappointed that there weren't more victims. Between the 31st of August and 9th November 1888, at least 5 women were murdered in Whitechapel and Spitalfields, 4 of them on the streets and 1 in her bed. Some were almost certainly hunkered down to sleep rough. There's no evidence that Polly, Annie, and Kate ever worked in prostitution. In fact, there's evidence to the contrary, but the police and the newspapers could not conceive of a woman in the East End's desperate poverty who didn't sell sex. This reputation has followed these women for more than 136 years. And it's often used to discount and discredit them, and to create the mythos of a dapper gentleman who slummed it in the East End and rid the area of its most diabolical scourge, the so-called unfortunates who tramped its streets in search of a drink, a bed, or a kind word. On our tour today, I won't be delving too much into the specificities of each woman's life beyond the basics. If you would like a more detailed tour about the reality of life in the East End and each woman's personal backstory, let me know in the comment section below. Now here we are.
The grimness of their everyday lives. Like there's essentially the commonality between them was that they were rough sleepers for the most part. They were vagrants.
That's not a comfortable life at all. Like that's a very, very arduous, depressing existence. You can see why people would be addicted to alcohol in those situations, to like self-medicate, basically.
Yeah.
We are on the landing of the museum. There it is, the classic symbol of Jack the Ripper, the top hat, which would have cost quite a pretty penny. Whoever this sick murderer was, he almost certainly did not wear an expensive top hat and a dashing cloak, which would have made him stick out in the impoverished East End. But
exactly, like, for the modern equivalent, I don't know, like someone walking through the projects wearing a pinstripe suit and a bowler hat.
Yeah.
Like you obviously don't belong there. You wouldn't be able to just blend into the background and be able to murder people and walk away. That wouldn't...
Or a long leather jacket, like ankle-length leather jacket and a fedora.
Yeah. Or just naked. If you just walked through the street naked, like, you'd stand out so badly, there's no fucking way. And the thing we know, and Christy will know this because she's a true crime person, that especially murderers will often do it in areas that they're comfortable with, often quite close to their homes or places of work, along roads
100%.
they walk regularly. It's places they feel comfortable in. They don't go to other parts of cities or whatever and do stuff. If they're like a spree killer or whatever, like, if it's just a random act, it can be anywhere, but a serial killer tends to act within, a couple of miles of where they live.
Yeah, 100%. Because they know the area, and they know like how various routes to get home and whatever else. But yeah, that's one of the geography is one of the ways that they kind of like hone in on where a perpetrator could live, based on the location of where the victims were taken and or found.
Yeah, indeed. It'd be like walking through Birmingham dressed as a bin worker. Thank you for adding to my city's pain.
But that inaccuracy is the least of our worries today. This museum was first proposed to the community in 2014 as a historical institution meant to chronicle and pay homage to the East End's impressive labor history, with a focus on the women who protested and rallied to create many of the working rights that we enjoy today. The museum's located on Cable Street, itself known for the historic Battle of Cable Street in 1936, when thousands turned out to counter a pro-fascist march in the area. It's a street steeped in protest history, which is something that the museum's founder, Mark Palmer Edgecombe, found out. Now, he's a former head of diversity at Google, but...
It so perfectly sums up the pinkwashing of corporations. The kind of scumbag who would create something as grotesque as this was the head of diversity, and they do it to cover their arse, right, to make themselves look good without ever actually doing anything positive for the groups they claim to represent.
But they sell products with rainbow flags on it, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they'll change their logo. The Raytheon logo will be in rainbow colours for 1 month. And then they'll go straight back to selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, where it's illegal to be gay. That's fine.
Well, that's where the money is, Kevin. What do you want them to do? Not make money?
Yeah.
Be ethical? Come on.
Yeah.
He claims that as the project developed, he decided a more interesting angle was from the perspective of the victims of the Ripper, which is not what this museum is, as you'll see. However, The Guardian did a tiny amount of digging, only to discover that the museum's own website stated that Palmer Edgecombe wanted to explore the story of Jack the Ripper as far back as 2008, 6 years before he claims that the museum's mandate changed. He knew what he was doing the whole time. As you can imagine, this change of priorities stirred up a lot of protests.
What a fucking piece of shit. Honest to God. Ugh.
As you can see from these pictures. Now, I remember these protests, and that's honestly why I've never been here before today. And it wasn't just the community that was outraged. The architects who designed this space, and did it at a rock-bottom price to help support the cause, also felt deceived. The architect wrote that it was salacious, misogynist rubbish. Now, I'm heading up the stairs and visiting the first room in the museum, which has been mocked up to look like one of the crime scenes. It's the site of Kate Eddowes' murder at Mitre Square, on the edge of the financial district.
We're walking through the real Mitre Square right now. Obviously, it's a lot different than it was in the summer of 1888. Different architectural tastes have changed, and of course the Blitz bombs really changed the landscape of this entire area. If we were here at night, this whole square would be thronged with different Jack the Ripper tours. On one night, I counted 34 passing through this area.
Big business.
Very big.
it's my opinion that Jack the Ripper was a sad little man, likely poor, who lived in the East End and liked to kill sleeping women who were down on their luck and didn't have anywhere else to go. And yes, I did say sleeping women, not women engaged in sex work. Because despite everything you've ever been told about Jack the Ripper, and despite some of the trash that I used to parrot every time I did this tour, most of the Ripper's victims were not sex workers, although they would be no less deserving of our sympathy, even if they were. But instead, they were desperately poor, and in some cases terminally ill, women addicted to alcohol and forced to sleep on the streets.
And that's the point. That's the point of it, right? There was obviously misogyny involved, but there was a taking advantage of the class stratification of society as well. Whoever this person was, or people, it could have been multiple, who fucking knows, knew that these women didn't matter, that the authorities didn't care about them, what happened to them was irrelevant, and so they could just kill with abandon.
And the thing is that that's actually probably the case for most of human history. We just haven't heard about
Yeah.
the, probably literally millions of women around the world who were poor, who were vulnerable, maybe had addiction issues, but were, abused or murdered even. And the authorities decided that they weren't worthy of justice.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Because, again, they were, quote, just prostitutes.
Yes.
As in, subhuman, in essence.
That's all they were. That was their essence.
Yeah.
They weren't human beings who did a thing. They were like an essence of prostitute.
Yeah. Fucking grotesque. 245 asks, if we ever did definitively find out who it was, do you think people would just be disappointed since it's probably just some random guy instead of someone famous? Probably, yeah. I think they would be. Because it would just be some random dude who lived in the area. Yeah.
I think if those people definitively demonstrated that Shakespeare wrote all his works, there would be some people who'd be disappointed. Some people just, can't. Life, I don't know why they don't think life is enough with all of the stuff that goes on in it.
Yeah.
There has to be, like, a subplot as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly, yeah. There's definitive proof that we landed on the moon, and people doubt it. So,
Yeah.
like, it's, what in the post-truth world, what does the word definitive even mean anymore? I don't know. Yes, there was a theory that it might have been the one of Queen Victoria's, was it sons or nephews?
Nephew, something like that. Yeah.
But it almost certainly wasn't. Because again, the likelihood of them even being in that area at all, ever, would be anathema.
Let alone, blending in to get away. And
Yeah.
No.
No. Yeah. Also, this thing, like, again, no one ever seems to realise, even if they, like, I don't know why it didn't dawn on me as well. The fact that they were sex workers clearly wasn't the issue, because the Ripper never had sex with the victims.
No, they were just they were asleep and they were vulnerable.
Yeah, they were there.
There was it. Yeah, literally, that was, he was looking for someone weaker than him because he didn't want a fair fight. Probably had a lot of issues, like a lot of rage issues, unresolved stuff. Probably maybe some issues with his mother, who hated women generally. This is the kind of profile that, I'm not a profiler, but those are all the sort of characteristics. When you find men who target women in this way, they have this irrational hatred of women, resentment, like they want sex from them, but they also don't like to have them have power over them. Really fucked up, like, worldviews, and then they act out on innocent people who had nothing to do with their issues,
Yeah. And of course, the way in which it was done was clearly a gender-specific thing.
Oh yeah, he was like a predator looking for.
No, but I mean,
people.
even like just the injuries that were inflicted were specifically designed as, degrading and, anyway.
They did odd jobs, begged for money, and regularly checked in and out of London's workhouses when they had no money to pay for a bed and were sick of sleeping on these streets. While they were trying to get some rest, a creepy little weirdo crept up on them and slashed their throats and eviscerated them. He was probably too timid to even speak to them while they were conscious. Now, this take makes some people very mad. After all, an entire industry has been built up on the idea that Jack the Ripper was some sort of suave, debonair gentleman who meted out justice to bad women, or who had an animalistic sense of Mr. Hyde lust that just couldn't be controlled. Ripper conventions, Ripperologists, Ripper souvenirs, Jack the Clipper, Jack the Chipper, provision
Jesus
tours complete with
Christ.
lurid projections onto the walls where the women died. I've seen guides dressed up in costumes, carrying lanterns, and even chasing their guests with
What?
big rubber knives.
What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Oh, fucking hell. Honestly, straight people are just...
Embarrassing. So embarrassing.
They shouldn't be allowed in public, honestly.
One guide even plays the psycho sound when he reaches the murder sites. And then there are photos like this one.
What the... There it is.
Baked potato.
Jack the Ripper baked potato shop.
What is... Why? What does that have to do with anything?
It doesn't.
Potato.
I saw it and I just thought that... what?
Yeah.
What? Jack the Ripper
Fair.
baked potato.
I know, I want to sing the baked potato song, but I can't now because it's inappropriate.
It's very inappropriate. Thank you, Krista. But yeah, that's just... it's fucking mental. It's mental. Who the fuck starts a company called the Jack Ripper baked potato shop?
I guess people think it's just so far back in time that the people involved don't seem like people anymore.
Wow. Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah, Jackie Potato is a baked potato, yeah. Yeah, capitalism at its finest, indeed.
Please tell me that's an art project. That can't actually be a Jack the Ripper themed baked potato shop, can it? Am I going mad?
Exactly.
So
yeah.
you tell me that this is just about trying to solve a cold case. No, it's not. It's about so much more than that. Over the course of the last 136 years, Jack the Ripper has become a cultural icon and very much a Victorian anti-hero, taking his place alongside Sweeney Todd, Mr. Hyde, and Sherlock Holmes. But of course, those are fictional characters, whereas Jack the Ripper was a real person who killed real women. But back to this room in the museum. Over on the wall, we have some legendary graffiti. It's doubtful that it's even connected to the case, but it's been used as evidence of a Freemason plot due to the spelling of the word Jews. This spelling is similar to 3 characters in an American Masonic ritual. This graffiti, wiped away by Detective Frederick Aberline and Chief of Police Charles Warren before it could even be properly documented, has spawned countless conspiracy theories and
Because there's literally nothing that could possibly happen that some dickhead won't blame on Jewish people.
100%.
Mad. Fucking mad.
Semitic hate. Now we'll come back to that topic when we have a look at some newspapers, but for now we're heading upstairs to the Ripper's apartment. We're now in the museum's mock-up of the Ripper's posh flat. What a swanky place.
What?
And a place of almost...
Yeah, exactly.
What, they just made up an apartment and said he probably lived someplace like this, even though he probably lived in like a hole in the wall or slept rough himself?
Yeah, no, he probably lived in a Besta lodging house. But it's very similar. You'll see a commonality with the overstatement of the quality of life in both his and her apartments as we go through the quote-unquote museum.
Certain fiction. There's a sort of attempt to make the visitor look for clues here, but overall it's just another diorama. Here we have a painting depicting crime writer Patricia Cornwell's favorite subject, painter Walter Sickert. Now, I don't want to delve too much into individual suspects on this tour today, but Sickert is really just a silly theory. Cornwell started with her preferred suspect and painted herself, pun intended, into a corner, even when the evidence didn't match her hypothesis. Sickert is just, it's ridiculous. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been Googling Jack the Ripper lately that TikTok has decided I'm the prime audience for a lot of true crime videos on this topic. So I've seen videos lately discussing whether Edgar Degas was Jack the Ripper, or of course the ever popular and utterly asinine theory that Jack the Ripper was old-timey American psycho H.H. Holmes. I've also heard that he was...
No, Sweeney Todd was a fictional character. Yeah. It wasn't a real person. Some people claim he was based on a real person, but okay, well, I'll claim that Jesus was as well then. Actually, he probably was. But, bad example.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
That is an amazing moustache.
You like that?
That is... It's both bushy and pointy. He's nailed both of the extremes of the moustache. You know what? I appreciate that.
Lewis
and the home stories are pretty good as well, to be fair.
Carroll, Joseph Merrick, aka the Elephant Man, and the Royal
As if the fucking Elephant Man could walk around inconspicuously. What the?
Yeah.
He was called the Elephant Man because people said he looked like a fucking elephant, which is a grotesque way of putting it. But like, what the fuck? What, you think he wouldn't have been noticed?
Conspiracy featuring the Duke of Clarence. The list of sexy, brooding, and complicated subjects is endless, and it's also infuriating. Now here's an apt reference, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Of course, a work of fiction, not unlike so much Jack the Ripper lore. Do I sound more than a bit peeved? It's the timing. During my master's degree, I studied the complexities around trying to design a memorial for Vancouver's so-called missing women, the at least 49 sex workers, many of them First Nations, murdered by pig farmer Robert Pickton. That disgusting monster died a few weeks ago, and I guess that's why I chose right now to do this museum. Because no one looks at Pickton, who I won't even picture here, and thinks, wow, what a sexy story. I want to pick...
Oh, thankfully, I'm being told the Jack the Ripper potato shop is now permanently closed.
Oh, well, that's not a loss at all.
So that's yay. Can we get some...
Oh, can I show my happiness?
That is a thumbs up, yes. I appreciate that, Krista.
Pickton coffee mug or a Pickton fridge magnet. However, they do just that for Jack the Ripper, and the two aren't really all that different. They're creepy little men killing the most vulnerable women in society because they could get away with it. That's a harsh indictment of both them and us. There have been dozens of serial killers who have targeted sex workers, and in many cases, those women are also Indigenous or women of color. We know that Pickton was a slimy, pathetic nobody, but I would bet that Jack the Ripper was exactly the same. At the end of my Jack the Ripper tours, people would always ask me, so, Jessica, who do you think did it? And the real answer was, if I was being honest, I don't care. Because the sad fact is that whoever it was, and I do personally think it was a mentally ill man called Aaron Kosminski, I just don't even think he's worth thinking about. Director Bruce Robinson, who wrote a book called They All Love Jack, would disagree with me, by the way. He couldn't see how the puny little Kosminski, with his delusions and poor personal hygiene, could have overpowered 5 women. His preferred suspect, complete with a grand Masonic plot that would be more fitting in one of his films, is composer Michael Maybrick. Robinson didn't, however, consider the fact that the women could have been sleeping when killed or just simply too intoxicated to fight back. And if I'm wrong, oh well! The time has passed to bring the murderer to justice, and I don't want to spend any more time thinking about this waste of space than I already have. So let's face it, the Ripper's real dwelling probably looked either like a bed in a poor East End doss house or the corner of a working class family home, which was likely just a few rooms in and of itself. It was not a high society apartment with a posh sitting area. Again, here's the ubiquitous top hat and cloak, absolutely silly if you know the history of the area at all. Here's another suspect, the eccentric American Francis Tumblety, who sold snake oil and porno books and had a collection of preserved uteruses in glass jars. But he was also a known homosexual.
What? Yeah, that is a strange
collection.
Gay serial killers don't kill women. Ugh. This whole
is that true, Christo?
You know, that is not something that I've seen a lot of. I know that from a profile perspective, serial killers tend to stay within their own ethnic, like, cohorts. Not exclusively, but it's quite it's quite unlikely, or it's much less likely. In terms of, like, sexual orientation, that I don't know of. So, like, Jeffrey Dahmer was gay and killed men. I'm trying to think of other homosexual serial killers. I'm really struggling.
Dave Rubin?
Dave Rubin?
Dave Rubin? Definitely.
Other than Dahmer, I mean, I know that there's the smiley face, the theorized smiley face killer who has targeted men, but that's, yeah, I'm not that familiar with many gay serial killers, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Thing just looks like a Halloween display. This is supposedly a lock of Mary Jane Kelly's hair, but it's dubious at best.
I mean, if that were true, why the fuck have you stolen a part of this human being's body?
Yeah.
Why do you possess this? That needs to be buried with the rest of this person.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? Why not take a hand or a foot? You decided to fucking take a part of a dead person's body. You psychopath. The fuck? And it's probably not true anyway, but, like, it's disgusting either way. Why is this on display?
It's like all those saint relics where people have finger bones and other bones and hair and shit from supposedly saints. Like, just let dead people rest. Like, what are you doing?
Well, you know, I was watching some of this person. Again, they're called the Museum Guide. Go and check them out. They're fucking awesome. I was watching the video on Westminster Abbey, which is very interesting. And Oliver Cromwell. You know, after the monarchy was restored, they dug him up. He was buried in Westminster Abbey, and they dug him up.
Charles II had him dug up. Right?
Indeed, and put on trial, and then beheaded. The corpse.
Smelly trial.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, how do you plead? Oh, your silence only incriminates you further, Oliver. Anyway, yeah, they kept his head for ages. Like, it was literally still, like, on a stick, preserved until the 1920s, when it was eventually buried at his alma mater in Cambridge.
That's very weird.
It's very weird. Like, there are photographs of Oliver Cromwell's, like, shrunken head that exist.
God, I don't need to see that.
No, you don't need to. I'm just saying it exists.
Yeah, those are things that exist in the world. Yeah. It's very different from people who used to have, like, their hearts cut out of their bodies and buried in different, like Richard the Lionheart. I think his heart is in Reims. I don't know, somewhere in France.
Yeah.
But his body is somewhere else. Slightly different than having your corpse, exhumed so it can be put on a show trial, in order to, I don't know, engage in some sort of political farce.
Yeah. Really, really strange.
And here's a mock-up from the From Hell letter, from which Alan Moore got the name for his graphic novel about Jack the Ripper, which is paired with a fake kidney to represent the real kidney supposedly sent to George Lusk of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee. That kidney, if it was even human, could have come from a morgue or could have been from an animal. Remember, this is 1888 and there's no way to tell. Here,
and, like, it's obvious that it's fake. It's obvious it's fake. right?
That one, yes. I don't know the story. I don't know the details, the ins and out of the Jack the Ripper case. But also, this is the other thing about it is all of these hoity-toity men that people banty about as possible suspects. None of them would have had like the skills needed to do some of the cuts, that Jack did.
Ah,
and
well,
to get it- Did she
wow.
talk about that?
She does refer to this, and again, it's not as clear cut as you might have thought.
Because I just
Actually,
kind of
that's
assumed he was some sort of laborer, or maybe he even worked at an abattoir.
possibly yes.
Yeah.
Here we have a little display of Freemason memorabilia. I actually have 2 videos that visit Freemasonry museums, one in London and one in Paris, and I've linked them just above. The Freemasonry evidence is so tenuous that it's hardly worth mentioning, but people love a good secret society and a good conspiracy theory, don't they? This room...
And they love some fucking, at the very least, passive anti-Semitism. Yeah. That's what that is.
It's kind of weird how they are so condemning of ooh, orgies and all this stuff that happens in private, and yet they want to just focus on it and go on and on and on about it and talk about it. And what happens, do you think? And what do they do? And ooh, let's write another book about it.
Yeah.
buys into the silliest and most egregious myths about Jack the Ripper, that he was a high society gentleman or even a doctor or a surgeon. While initial postmortem reports noted that the killer may have had surgical knowledge to remove a uterus or kidney, some later said that this prowess was overstated and that the organs had been removed in a crude way. Of course, medical training would not have been the only place to gain anatomical knowledge.
Yeah,
Butchers,
true.
barber surgeons, and even farmers would have had a working understanding of mammal anatomy.
Exactly.
So too would someone who had tortured animals. I'm heading back out onto the stairwell, plastered with the broadsheet newspapers of the day. The press were the architects of how we view Jack the Ripper, crafting his image carefully to appeal to the masses and to sell papers. Armed with a horrifying nickname, Jack the Ripper, gleaned from the Dear Boss letter that we will see shortly, journalists quickly fashioned a terrifying figure to cast blame on. There was no clear suspect or target for all of this pandemonium and panic, so the press chose to label the anonymous killer with haunting and undoubtedly catchy titles such as Monster and Fiend, which added an almost supernatural element to the killer's reputation. You can
And this is, I think, an under-analysed part of this. This mythologizing of the person who does the violence allows ordinary society to distance itself from that violence, even though it's ordinary society which A, loves the salacious aspects of this, and B, creates the exact conditions in which this is bound to happen.
Yep. Basically, yeah.
You're not so different from the monster. You created the monster. And yet Victorian society steps back and says, oh, well, I'm not like him. He's from hell.
Yeah.
No, you're both from London.
They literally bang up people who are in debt.
Yeah.
And then send them to workhouses, keep them poor, and then blame them for their poverty.
Yep. 100%.
see that in these images here. As a tour guide, I cannot tell you how many guests I have had who believed that Jack the Ripper was a fictional character. After all, he slots quite neatly into the trope of the Victorian Gothic villain. Of course, we also have to address the rampant anti-Semitism that is clear in these papers, and in society in general in 1888 London. The East End was known...
Look at that. Jesus fucking Christ.
I think it's hard for us to understand. I mean, especially because living after the Holocaust.
Yeah, yeah.
I think if people went back now to any time before the basically the 1930s came from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
All these added this anti-Semitism has been rife throughout Europe. It started honestly when like a bunch of pagans converted to Christianity.
Pretty much.
And blamed Jewish people for the Romans killing Jesus.
Yeah.
It was the Romans who killed Jesus, and yet somehow because they were breaking away from the Jewish religion, right? So they wanted to distance themselves. So they demonized them in a very, in a very godly way, a very Christian heart in the way that they did these pogroms all over and mass killings and the legislation and this. And yeah, but I think if we were to go back today, we'd be absolutely fucking shocked at the casual and pervasive nature of anti-Semitism just in all European culture.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, and in your American culture as well, lest we forget.
Yeah,
Which I suppose is an extension of European culture, but you get the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the population obviously was much smaller and
Yeah.
more geographically concentrated, so it was more like a rumor, than like people interacting
Yeah.
kind of thing. But yeah, 100%. I mean, it carried over as well too.
And the
I mean, we hate lots of people in America. Like, if you weren't
Yeah.
white and Protestant, screw you.
well, exactly, yeah. You were too busy killing the native peoples.
That was much more focused. Yeah, doing
the
a genocide of the native peoples rather than the Jewish people.
Exactly,
Yeah.
the Jews can wait for now. We're killing the Choctaw on Tuesday.
Well, I think it was first oppression and the maintenance of absolute power over black people.
Yes,
because
that's
we
true,
knew that
yeah.
we'd fuck them over so bad that we would want to get revenge. So we couldn't let them have any chance of doing to us what we did to them. And then you get, as you expand westwards, then you get mass genocide and theft of land and resources and mass slaughter of native people. So that was a little bit more in your pressing. And then there was the hatred of Jewish people and other groups. So
And the really annoying or upsetting thing or whatever of all of it is that the person who was Jack the Ripper could have been Jewish. There were lots of Jewish people in that area.
Yeah, it didn't have anything to do with the fact that he had mental issues and clearly like lethal amounts of misogyny issues that he had to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Exactly. Well, no. Yeah. It was an area, as is always the case, the poorest areas where immigrants end up. Right. So this was an area where there were lots of Irish. There were lots of Jewish people who'd come over from Eastern Europe to escape pogroms. And you can sort of, it's fascinating in every city where the new immigrants are is where the old immigrants were. So whilst a lot of the Irish and Jewish people have moved out from those areas now, they've been replaced with newer waves of people. Sort of in the post-war period, a lot of black people moved into those areas from the Caribbean and places like that. You've had Indian and Pakistani immigration, lots of Bangladeshi people, and now a new wave of white people with Poles and Latvians and that sort of thing. You know?
Romanians.
Yeah, so it's basically the poor areas is where the immigrants end up. So it is possible that he was Jewish, but this kind of thing is just going to stir up hatred against Jewish people with absolutely no cause. There's nothing to suggest that this was being done against Gentiles or something
No. Sociopathy is universal because humans are the ones who have a percentage chance of becoming sociopathic, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not confined to any group. It's sadly, this is one of the things that really convinced me there can't possibly be a God. Because if there was a God and a God was good, a good God would make the kind of brain damage or congenital brain structures that allow for sociopathy impossible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because it's just the probability of suffering goes to 100% over time.
Yeah, exactly. Because even the idea of free will, regardless of whether you think that exists or not, the argument that they use about that it falls down with, like you say, mental illness. Because that's not someone choosing to behave in that way, really.
Yeah, and not all sociopaths kill. Right?
But most don't.
Yeah, most don't. But you get the right conditions, basically a terrible childhood.
Yeah.
Right? Or, more brain damage on top of already bad situations to stop impulse control or whatever else. And that's, it's inevitable. Right. Yeah. And also, it's not just sociopaths. I mean, people lose their shit and kill each other for stupid reasons. I mean, that's the whole point of my series, right? People just lose anyone is capable of killing people in the right circumstances. I'm 100% positive of that. And it's not about ethnicity or your religion or what part of the world you come from. It's a human problem. And when we blame Satan, not but when people blame Satan or blame the devil or evil forces, this is when it externalizes something that is mental illness that we need to treat like a public health issue, not like a moral issue. I mean, there's a justice issue when you kill people. Yes, there should be justice for that. But the whole thing about adding demons and devils doesn't actually make the situation any better.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the
racism.
idea of with the from hell letter. It's
Mm-hmm.
much easier to just say, oh, there's something otherworldly or supernatural going on, rather than going, oh no, they're a human being who exists in the same city as I do, and these conditions allowed for this.
Yeah.
Because that's difficult. That forces you to have to take uncomfortable looks at your own situation and make different choices.
Yeah, it makes you. It's not a simple narrative now, right?
Yeah.
And it's much less. There's much less security because there's no supernatural like charms that you can. Oh, I'm going to pray to God to keep me safe.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, or I'm good, they're bad. That othering, being in the in group of the chosen, and then the other people who give in to Satan because they're bad and they're weak. No, like,
Yeah.
some people do give in to bad impulses, but it has nothing to do with Satan.
Yeah.
And you would too if you had some conditions, if you had maybe similar conditions. Who knows what decisions you would make?
Indeed. There's no good time during this video for me to do this, so I'm just going to say, you can give me money. Look, I feel... Thank you, Christy. I feel bad. Look, because am I profiting now? Am I profiting from Jack the Ripper, I don't think so, because again, I want to focus not on Jack the Ripper at all, which is why you should read that book. Because literally the descriptions of the murders are like a sentence at the end of each chapter, and that's it. That's all you get. There's no... literally, it's the story of these people's lives, and then the bit that everyone knows them for gets a tiny, like, a millisecond. Because that's all it's worth. That's all that this person ever deserved.
Yeah, well, also because the papers at the time had no interest in getting to know and humanize the victims.
Yeah.
Right? So it took historians decades, centuries later to actually pay attention and look into
and
this
they all
thing,
had
right?
they all had fascinating life stories. Like I said, I didn't even know one of them was from Sweden. That had never been
didn't know that at
mentioned.
all.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Stride woman. It's because she married an Englishman called Stride, so that's why
Mm.
the original name is something very Swedish, and I've totally forgotten it. Yeah, incredible.
I think, though, murder is the ultimate crime, right? It's the
Yeah.
first crime in the Bible.
Yeah.
It's, well, yeah, we're gonna call, because you want to say, oh, disobedience, whatever. Cain killing Abel, it's the most dramatic thing. It's at least in the States, it's the one crime for which there is no statute of limitations.
Yeah.
And I think injustice of it, or the seeking justice for it, is something that touches us very primally. And this is why I think, robberies don't get covered as much. There's a little bit about serial arsonists or their serial behaviors. But we come back to murder because it's such a wrong. And I think when there is a unsolved murder, then there's a lack of justice. And I think for us, generally as a society, we also feel a lack of closure about those. Here, the women are just sort of placeholders. They're not really treated as human beings. But this idea that this guy, kind of like murdered a bunch of women and then disappeared and was never caught, this sits poorly with us. And I think it's why it comes back. We keep coming back to such unsolved cases.
Yeah. Actually, you raise an interesting point there, non-binary, about the amount of smoke in these factory cities and stuff. That's why in Britain, if you look at virtually every major town, other than like ones that have been built very recently, all of the poor areas are on the east side of the city, because the prevailing wind in Britain, because of the North Atlantic drift current, goes from west to east. So the smoke drifts over the poor areas. Little fact for you.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Her maiden name was Elizabeth. Oh my god, Gustafsdottir. There you go. Yeah. She was from a farming community. Very idyllic. Didn't work out in the end.
Known as London's Jewish Quarter, when 200,000 Eastern European Ashkenazi Jews who were forced to flee pogroms in Russia and Poland settled there, some for a generation and some for much, much longer, becoming a part of modern London life. Of course, that doesn't mean that Jack the Ripper wasn't Jewish, but it does mean that we have to critique what we read extra carefully when caricatures like these ones were acceptable in the daily papers. Now we're in a mock-up of the office of a police detective, potentially Detective Frederick Aberline, furiously on the case and sifting through clues. On the wall here we have a list of the victims. Again, the museum has gone with 8 instead of the canonical 5, and some of the most famous suspects. This is really the only room that has any artifacts on display that are even tenuously connected to Jack the Ripper. In this case here, we can see some of the museum's latest acquisitions. 4 objects that were on the person of Constable Edward Watkins at the time that he discovered the body of Catherine Eddowes. His truncheon, whistle, handcuffs, and notebook. On the wall...
Wow, that is some tenuous bullshit.
Literally anything connected is just put in under a display case.
Wow, that bit of wood that he carried. Brilliant. That's, I mean, really, I've learned so much from that artifact. Thank you. Fucking Christ almighty. I thought the poor areas in London were in the east because the Thames took the shit that way. Well, that is also the case with London. But not necessarily, because, I mean, they build palaces and stuff right next to the river.
Also the case outside of London as well. Oh my god, so I've got in the background, because now unlike you, I can actually have a TV on in the background while I do the show. And I've got Dortmund versus Barcelona.
Okay.
And it said it started at 8. Fucking, like, they're just warming up still. So how long is it actually 9 o'clock that they start?
Is there a time difference?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
It's Champions League tonight, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. But why do you care anyway? You're not in Dortmund.
No, it's just kind of like, because I thought I could have, I actually thought, I can be like Kevin. I can have the footy on in the background.
It's 8,
live stream.
8 p.m. here, so it'd be 9 p.m. for you.
Yeah, it is 9 o'clock. Okay,
Yeah.
They're doing a whole bunch of bullshit interviews and like showing clips. They had this really weird graphic of some player they were focusing on, and they were talking about like his, I think, like field awareness. I don't know what that, nous, whatever. And they showed like him turning his head with like the rays, like he was scanning the field. Like a triangle, from his head, showing how he was looking behind him to see who was around, and then he'd get the ball and he'd know where to go. And I just like,
that's Johnny Laser Eyes. That wasn't even a graphic. He's got laser eyes.
Yellow beams that shoot out of his eyes for about 20 feet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Honestly, they call him the human lamp.
the human. We say Ampel in German. The human stoplight.
Yes, that's him. Anyway.
Ampelmensch.
Well done, Katie, on winning your appeal against YouTube. Fuck you.
There you go. I'm clapping. What noise does that make anyway? I have no idea. Is it Bing?
It goes bloom 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 bloom.
Does it?
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe what it sounds like. Yeah, it doesn't. It sounds a bit like what do they call them? Not glockenspiel. The
xylophone.
Yeah, look, the wooden xylophones.
Mm-hmm. The ones that stand up and you like go bloop, 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 bloop,
bloop, bloop, bloop, bloop, bloop. Yeah, it's like that. Bloop, 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 bloop. Yeah. But it's the same. It's monotone, so it's not,
like Morse code, but on a xylophone.
Yes.
There you
are
go.
even more copies of the Illustrated Police News, one of the newspapers dedicated to sharing shocking and titillating details of the crimes, which were a popular source of cheap entertainment for an increasingly literate working class. Stories were exaggerated and moral panics
But
were...
it's not even just for the working class. I think a lot of middle and upper class people would have been... It was their guilty pleasure type thing. They enjoyed all of this fucking salacious nonsense.
Oh yeah, like it was like common people, but Victorian times. Wow, that's now I'm really dating myself and my musical references here.
What was that? Sorry, I missed the
Oh,
reference.
I said it was like the common people, but for Victorian times. That
Oh,
song,
okay.
Common People.
Yes, indeed.
Go ahead and sing some of it for us.
She came from Greece, she had a thirst for knowledge.
Yep.
Just did
College.
yeah. And then dance and drink and screw, because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah. I wanna know like common people.
True.
were stoked to a fever pitch, with half-truths and outright lies printed and sold like hotcakes. The museum really struggles to fill these rooms with connections to Jack the Ripper. Here's another reference to Jekyll and Hyde.
Oh, for fuck's sake. But, like, I don't even know how to fucking deal with that as a connection, because, like, the Jekyll and Hyde stories, or story, I guess, is a genuine cautionary tale, isn't it? That's it. Okay, it's fictional, so the idea that it's in any way connected is ridiculous. And secondly, again, it's sort of almost the good part of Victorian society divesting itself from the bad bit, as if those two things aren't the same human being.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the whole point of it is, you know, he wanted to basically let all his passions and his lusts out, but not bear any of the consequences.
Yeah.
He didn't want it to damage his reputation. Didn't want people to know about it. So he had this whole, and you're right. I mean, the bifurcation, in order to maintain respectability while also being able to indulge in all of your vices. But this has nothing to do with some skeezy little misogynist with sociopath who couldn't, basically would look for vulnerable women to attack in the middle of the night.
Indeed. Thank you, Carl, for that message. But you don't get the sound because I turned the sound off, because it would be very inappropriate, frankly.
Apparently, American stage actor Richard Mansfield had been discussed as a potential suspect because he was just too convincing as the madman.
That's quite a cool picture, though. The effect of that. Which I presume is just a double exposure thing.
Yeah,
it's
100% double exposure, yeah.
But it's fucking cool.
And on stage in the West End that summer. This string board really reminds me of that Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme. You can't unsee it now. We can also see some replicas of the most famous Jack the Ripper letters, over 200 of which were mailed to journalists, police officers, and local residents.
Well, I'm just sure he was just a massive penman, this guy.
Yeah.
Definitely, 100% he was sending 200 fucking letters.
Yeah, because copycats didn't exist until the 20th century.
Definitely.
The name Jack the Ripper comes from one of these letters, though modern criminologists believe that they were likely all fakes, sent by pranksters and journalists themselves. Now, times have changed very little. People remain the same. There's still a love of true crime, especially popular in the last few decades with the advent of podcasts and YouTube. There's been a lot of coverage in the media lately, and a lot of hand-wringing, about women and true crime, and a push to chastise the women who enjoy relaxing with a glass of wine while they learn about gruesome murders.
See, this is the point where I was like, I think I should probably show this to Christy or whatever, because she makes an exceptional point now.
Okay.
Instead of feeling like the victim, we place ourselves into the shoes of the detective, and that is empowering. That's where things get muddy, because for a lot of women, confronting their fears of violence in a safe environment helps them to feel more empowered and paradoxically more safe. I think Freud would argue that by externalizing our fears of being murdered, we're able to consume it as entertainment, kind of like how roller coasters allow us to experience terror in a safely controlled environment. And that's exactly what this is. So again, why does this museum feel so exploitative?
Thoughts?
So I guess, you know, this will make sense in a minute.
Okay.
There's a reason why I've always preferred historical, like reading about actual history and real people who experienced life and loved and laughed and lost and cried and died. You know, like it was about it's because it wasn't just passing the time or acquiring facts. It was about understanding human beings who existed in the past, real people. And that's not, and I don't want to put down other people's fictions. I don't want to yuck your yum, right? But for me, and I do enjoy some fiction, but when you know that everyone in the story is made up, then sometimes is, for me at least, a little bit harder to emotionally feel the resonance of things, you know? And I think with, you know, a lot of us, you look at Law and Order, CSI Vegas, Miami, New York, right? Crime shows. Holmes didn't do too many murders, but he did the occasional murder in his detective work. And so we have all of these fictional dramas, but they're just pretend, you know? And when I'm watching true crime, I don't know, I feel in little ways like the people who are left behind, they get to get on and talk about the person they loved and lost and what that person meant to them and how they keep them alive in their hearts. And that to me has a lot more emotional resonance than watching a TV episode about a fictional character. And so it's a little bit of empathy, I guess, going on. And again, kind of like witnessing their pain, because probably most people don't want to talk about their murdered child.
Yeah.
And so they can't keep them alive as much, or maybe they don't feel as comfortable. And so this is a way for them to talk about them that's not just about them being a victim. And that's so that is also part of it for me. Part of it is also the mystery, like not just the how he did it, but and how you get him, but fucking why are people so fucking stupid? They do these things. If you have a woman who is, you know, poisoning her husband with antifreeze, like you're such an idiot. Like people at the hospital are going to be able to do tests for this. Like why do you just divorce him? You know, there's that kind of bafflement as well, and trying to fathom the unfathomable. So I think for me, there's a lot of levels to that content, but just like the fact that I preferred to read about Elizabeth or Mary Queen of Scots, or the affair of the diamond necklace in the French court, or whatever else about Oliver Cromwell's childhood and wherever it was it Ely? I think I saw his house when we went there. That I just feel more connected to that than imaginary people who never felt anything and who never did anything and who never were anything.
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
Yeah. Again, going back to the book, The Five, the heartrending element of it is that I want, like, because they takes each of the 5 women's stories and tells you, kind of biography basically, and like you're rooting for them. You want them to get out of their predicament. You want them to recover and become safe, but they can't. And it's sort of that I find that difficult to cope with. I think.
Yeah, it's like a Shakespearean tragedy where you know the ending and it's going to end badly, but you still hope beyond hope.
Well, no,
unreasonable.
Yeah, but Shakespeare's rubbish. We've been through this. He's rubbish. I'm a better writer than Shakespeare. Fact.
I see they've dredged up Titus Andronicus again on the stage. That's a rough one. Cannibalism.
Yeah, rubbish. Yeah, I know. Terrible. I'm just look, and I don't think it's controversial to say that I'm a better writer than him. I don't know why anyone would have a problem with that. I obviously am.
Maybe that's why I'm struggling. This is less a museum and more a diorama. It's kind of like the London Dungeon. It's also riddled with inaccuracies, and the controversy over its origins is also still lingering in my mind. I'm all for good fun. And there's a conflict in my own content, because I describe the people tortured and executed by kings and queens with great gusto. Is all dark tourism ghoulish? Where do I personally draw the line? I mean, if I had to...
I think partly because he was never found. There's no sense of closure, whereas with a king or a queen torturing someone, if you torture and kill someone, that's no better regardless of who it is and why you're doing it, particularly. Outside of occasional revenge stories, but let's put that to one side. Right? The vast majority of people who get killed ever, it's wrong and fucked up. There's an understandable reason why this thing is taking place. There's an inevitability, or not inevitability, there's a through line you can grasp hold of as a story. There's a reason why this person has ended up in the way that they have. So there's a sense to it. It's disgusting and wrong and bad, and we can, say, well, King such and such is a prick. But at least we know who King such and such was. We can cuss that motherfucker out by name. Even if he's got statues and stuff, which they all fucking have, of course. Especially in London. Jesus. Whereas with this, it's like the senselessness of it. These people had done nothing. Nothing at all. Not that I'm saying it's okay what happened to those other people, or they deserved it, but like, these people literally did nothing. They fell asleep.
Yeah.
And were just killed. Like, it's just sort of... It's senseless. It's awful, And there's no sense of closure or justice or anything for any of them.
Yeah. And that doesn't sit well with us, which is why I think it lingers.
Yeah, undoubtedly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, because of this fucking evil shit as well, like their names are still being dragged through the mud 130 years later.
Yeah, well, Mary Magdalene's like, get in line, ladies.
Yeah, true. No, she's she's been getting it for a bit longer, certainly.
Explain this schism. I think it has to do with the fact that this is still happening. Poor, marginalized women, including trans women, are still a target for violence. And it is their perceived association with sex work, that whether that is invented or reality, that makes them less worthy of investigation and justice. I mean, again, just think of the victims of Robert Pickton, or the Grim Sleeper in LA, or the Yorkshire Ripper Peter Sutcliffe here in England, or the Highway of Tears in British Columbia. I could list many, many more. This museum, and Jack the Ripper tours in general, try to present this violence as a quaint Victorian peccadillo, a spooky remnant of a bygone era, when in fact it is a constant. It hasn't changed. And women are in as much danger today as we were on the streets of Whitechapel in the summer and autumn of 1888. A really interesting route the museum could have taken here in this gallery about the police is to highlight the problem of having two police forces. The fact that the crimes occurred on the border between the square mile of the City of London and what was then the borough of Stepney, and therefore under the jurisdiction of the London Metropolitan Police, and therefore having two different police forces who did not get along
Well, and also the fact that the police didn't give a fuck to begin with, regardless of jurisdictional matters.
Yeah, I think the newspapers probably put a lot of pressure on them in this case.
Yeah.
Rather than, otherwise it probably would have just gone under the radar.
Yeah, it became high profile, yeah. There probably were other murderers like this, we just haven't heard of them. Because the police just didn't even bother.
Oh, 100%.
Didn't bother connecting any of these things. It was just some poor person got stabbed, who cares? Moving on.
Well, I think it was actually, this is kind of shocking, but I think I might be wrong on this, so chat can correct me, but it wasn't until like the 1970s in the States when Ted Bundy was going across state lines and killing women across state lines that states, police departments started to, or even like cities away, started to make more of an effort to exchange information on like, well, we've got this missing person, or we have a victim who's been killed, and they were bound in this way and they were found in this location. The kind of MO of the crime, to see if there were similar crimes happening in their like an hour away, because they didn't have the internet, they didn't have bulletins, they just had phones that they pick up. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of people got away with killing because of just poor police communication and rivalries, or just not even thinking to reach out.
Yeah.
Investigating the crimes could have really ruined the investigation. But there's no mention of this complexity, just a silly set to walk through. Now, this room is at the top of the building and attempts to show us what the women's rooms where they slept might have looked like. Now, I can appreciate what they're trying to do here, but this is so inaccurate. The only one of the canonical 5 who stayed in a private room like this one was Mary Kelly, and even hers was described as dark, grim, and filthy, and she usually shared it with her on-again, off-again boyfriend. I mean, the curios are a lovely touch, but come on, these are women who pawned their clothing. There's even a pawn ticket on the wall referencing the fact that Kate Eddowes pawned her boyfriend's shoes a few days before her death. They certainly would have pawned nice little decor bits like this first. This painting here is actually a better example of where they would have slept, in so-called coffin beds for 4 pence a night. We know.
What kind of society could possibly justify that?
Yeah.
God damn it.
Coffin beds.
And these people were luckier than some.
Yeah.
Look at
They had 4 pence.
Yeah. 4 out of the 5 women were killed outside, asleep. They didn't have a place. They couldn't even afford this. Fucking hell.
Know that Annie Chapman, suffering from TB, paid 8 pence a night for a double bed, but that was in a dorm surrounded by other people. This modest bed would have been a luxury that the women had not known since they left their marriages and their family homes. And speaking of poor Annie, her biography, as always, tars her with the Victorian taint of prostitution, when she likely did not ever engage in the trade. She was 47, a chronic alcoholic, and suffering with tuberculosis, which she was receiving treatment for. Of course, that doesn't mean she didn't sell sex, but no one that she knew said that she did. The song playing is a rendition of A Violet Plucked from Mother's Grave, which witnesses heard Mary Jane Kelly singing on the evening of her death, perhaps while entertaining a suitor or paying client, because we know that Mary Jane Kelly was indeed a sex worker. We can see some quotes on the wall, some of which are the last words the women were heard to say, like the quote here about the bonnet. This is what Polly Nichols was supposedly heard to say as she went up to try to scrounge her DOS money in the middle of the night. However, some of these quotes were collected by journalists talking to random East End unfortunates during the Ripper's reign of terror. Again, I question including 8 victims here without presenting any caveat or stating that 3 of these 8 are not commonly considered part of the canonical 5. As I make my way back downstairs to the basement, which is the order that the museum suggests you should visit, we can see a little display talking about change in the East End. Spitalfields and Shoreditch really started to gentrify in the 1980s and 90s. First came the artists, then the hipsters, and now the bankers, as the financial district creeps further and further east down Whitechapel High Street. The women wouldn't recognize it. I mean, I barely recognize it, and I've lived here for less than 15 years. Now let's enter into the museum's final room. You can see it says here, warning, this is a mortuary. I mean, no, it's not. When I first learned about the museum, I remember reading that it was located in the former mortuary, where some of the victims underwent their post-mortem examination. Now, if you've watched my video about my hometown in Vancouver, you know that I used to work in a crime museum housed in an old morgue, and so this actually made sense to me. However, I must have misunderstood. The mortuary where Elizabeth Stride underwent her post-mortem is actually nearby, located in St. George's in the East in Shadwell. As the museum attempts to maintain a tenuous grasp to proximity and center itself as a valid historical site, there is a fake blue plaque on the
Jesus
exterior that reads, "The
Christ.
body of Elizabeth Stride," in large letters.
Was taken to St George in the East.
Ugh.
Fucking hell. This is such low grade shit.
Yeah.
With the actual location in smaller letters underneath. Upon realizing that this was simply a Victorian townhouse and not the old morgue, I was really not prepared for the basement level. It has been Disneyfied into a mock-up of a morgue, and a historically inaccurate one at that, and nothing made me feel worse in this museum than the fake morgue. Remember, I'm comfortable in a morgue. I worked in one for years. But there was something so exploitative about building a fake morgue to, quote, commemorate real women.
Now, just take a step back. Imagine if it was your photo being shown on the walls of a morgue, or even worse, being projected onto the side of the place where you were murdered. Now take it one step further and imagine that it was your mangled and bloody autopsy photo, which is common. Those photos are passed around and shown on every walking tour. I mean, if you've watched my videos before, you know I don't believe in ghosts, but maybe I do believe in bad energy, and this whole building had a terrible feeling to it.
And there is no doubt that only one thing is being honored in this room, and that is male violence against women. No schmaltzy candle can disguise that fact. I'm now leaving the museum, and honestly, I feel like I need to shower off the energy of that place. Now here are my final thoughts. For many years, I was a part of the Jack the Ripper industrial complex. I told myself I was giving a better tour, but I was actually just regurgitating a lot of the same nonsense that's repeated in this museum. And every now and then, I would get a rude awakening.
I vividly remember a night on what remained of Flower and Dean Street, which was a location of some of the most notorious lodging houses or doss houses in London. And I was regaling the crowd with a story about Polly Nichols' final night on the street. And I'm sure it was riddled with inaccuracies that I had learned. And a survival level sex worker came up to the group and began really shouting at us, screaming about how she had friends who'd been murdered down by the Thames, and she knew sex workers that were abused in ways exactly like Jack the Ripper's victims, and she wanted to know why we were on that tour and why we didn't care about her. Yeah. Some people in my group started to get defensive, and I stopped them. I said, no, she's right. And I let her finish. And after the tour was over that night, I left from here, Mitre Square, and went all the way back into Whitechapel to go looking for her. My husband was on the phone saying, what are you doing? That could be dangerous. But I guess I just needed her to absolve my guilt. I wanted to tell her that no, my tour was different, and I focused on respecting the women. But at its core, did my tour really do that? No. And it certainly didn't make her life any better. And clearly it upset her. She wasn't asking for money. She just wanted to vent her disgust at us. And I think we deserved it. I didn't find her that night, and I still think about her to this day. She's one of the reasons I'm making this video.
I think my sentiments can be summed up by Laura.
Yeah, that's fucked, man.
Mm-hmm.
I hope she's okay.
Watson, who's a spokeswoman for the English Collective of Prostitutes. She says, "We object to Jack the Ripper tours because they represent the gruesome murder of 5 women as an exciting, tantalizing event, glorifying the man while invisibilizing the women. What a distortion and abuse of our humanity that 5 women who were tortured to death are of less interest than the monster that killed them." As I mentioned before, this video was in no way meant to explore the lives of the victims, but their lives were worthwhile and valid. If you are interested in a separate video where I visit their home neighborhoods and pay my respects to their final resting places, let me know. I can guarantee that it will not be a typical Jack the Ripper tour.
Well, that's the end of our tour here in Spitalfields.
Yeah.
That was really good. Thanks for that, mate.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we watched that.
Yeah, I'm too.
Yeah, final thoughts, I guess. I don't know.
I'm glad that people, like, basically, this makes me really grateful that we have critical analysis as a method of looking at things, because I think it's really important to do this kind of critique and not just take the narratives or the worldview that's been presented to us with a framework, a misogynistic usually one, makes capitalism the hero, all this kind of bullshit, right? And critical analysis is about power and relations and dynamics and understanding how they came to be and how they are perpetuated, and it's on the basis of exploitation. So yeah, I think that this kind of activity, I mean, you're not going to stop necessarily the Jack the Ripper tours, but okay, I'm gonna go off on a bit of a tangent again here, but we're being all kind of artsy fartsy, or at least, philosophical in our approach here. Over the summer, I went to a conference. It was in Ghent, and one of the things they offered was an LGBTQ focused tour through a museum. And one of the things they said at the start is there aren't a lot of women or LGBT, or there's not a lot of diversity or LGBTQIA people that we know about in museums, because throughout history, these people have been oppressed and made to be invisible and criminalized. But now we know that, from looking at the records or whatever else. And one of the art pieces that we were taken to see was it was a fountain with, we'll call it, athletic teenage boys in it. And
Okay.
the sculptor was basically would get poor boys and bring them in and exchange sex for room and board and being his models.
Okay.
And there was a discussion about how to handle the art, because it's unethical. Like,
Yeah.
by modern times, this was obviously exploitation, and exploitation of people too young to consent, young men too young to consent. They also, it didn't really matter if they were gay or not. The adults in the situation exploited them because of their economics and their age and their inexperience and the criminality of the behavior that was going on. But if you just put it away, then you pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
If you try to cover it up, and that's not ethical either. So what they decided was to talk about it, to show the problem, to talk about the ethical dilemma, and not to try to solve it, but to present it and make more people aware of it. And I thought that was a very mature way to handle a difficult problem.
That is actually,
So,
yeah.
mm-hmm.
That's a much more well considered approach to it than I think many people would have taken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I kind of feel like that about this.
Yeah.
Talking about the problem actually starts a whole new conversation, and it changes the conversation from what the narrative has been since the story first emerged, until people started to push back and ask tougher questions and question the ethics of what was being presented and the framing of it.
Indeed. Well, I'll put a link to the Museum Guide channel there in the both of the chats, so go and check them out. A lot of their videos isn't like that. They go to good museums and say, look, here are the good things at the good museums. So if you like good museums, that's more of their sort of thing. Yes.
But I think, Kevin, you found a lot of, I don't want to say rewarding, but you've discovered things through the process of going down this rabbit hole that are new to you.
Yeah, a lot of historical stuff, a lot of moral stuff as well, because like,
Mm-hmm.
again, as I pointed out right at the very start, the fact that even if they had been sex workers, the way in which they get treated is obviously not acceptable, of course. But just the fact that I was so ready and willing to just accept that they were showed me a little bit of something about my own biases, I think, which I wasn't happy with, and that I need to ruminate upon and work upon, I think, definitely, because without wanting to, or even thinking that I was. I was also besmirching these dead women. For,
And you know, when we're
without.
given bad narratives and we're repeating them thinking that we're right, we're contributing to the problem, not consciously, but we're still part of the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's some shit I need to deal with, I think. Katie says, I'll ask again, Kev, are there bus tours in Birmingham when it's not a massive open air tip? I don't know. I don't think so.
There's
Like-
no city bus tours, big red bus tours, anything like that.
I don't think so.
You just go down
No.
to the bull ring.
No, most of our historic stuff got knocked down. So like it's just, yeah, it's not. Also, London's its own world. London's got like so much historic shit everywhere.
Since
It's
the
just
Romans were building shit there. I mean, people have been
Yeah.
around obviously since the Roman times, but Romans were building shit on top of other people's shit.
yeah, look, some of the Roman fucking walls exist. Bizarrely exposed by the Luftwaffe. So I mean, for that one thing and one thing alone.
Thanks, Germany.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, they literally did. They bombed it, and in trying to sort of put things back together, they went, "This is a bit of wall we haven't seen before. Where did this come from?" And it literally Roman walls. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So, we're gonna talk about Friday. We're gonna preview Friday.
Oh yeah, we got Steve Shives coming on Friday. I don't know what I
someone
don't know
mentioned
what to
Steve
talk about.
a couple of weeks about. We'll find some shit. We'll just do the normal shit we do, but with Steve.
Yeah, just normal happy hour, but with Steve Shives. Added extra Steve Shives at no extra charge.
Yes.
Yeah. And tomorrow I'm on with Turn Left with Curtis on Turn Left.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, to talk about things, including the bizarre and interesting story that the Hamas are suing the British government.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And when I say suing, I don't mean for money. They're contesting their classification as a terrorist group,
Ah, interesting.
which they are allowed to do. Everyone's doing that. But like, you just think, oh God, is this a thing now?
Apparently.
Is Al Qaeda going to jump on board? How about ISIS? Let's go some ISIS.
Oh God, can you imagine if ISIS didn't made an appeal at that?
Fuck
that
it.
With
Let's
Yeah.
get the IRA on board. Come on, lads.
this...
Everyone, just do a fucking do a thing. So mad. Anyway, so that's a thing, and the British media being shit as always about it. It's incredible stuff. Anyway, yeah. Well, I don't want to leave on a somber note, but like I don't feel like I want to play.
Yeah.
I don't want to
I
play a
think-
happy bit after that. I want it to just sort of sit there.
No, I think we talked about that, leaving it in the discomfort middle of non-resolution as our end. And that's kind of why I brought it to that museum thing, because it allows us to not have to do a happy, uplifting Daniel pause menu video and change the energy. Just kind of like leave us reflective.
Yeah, I mean we've had a roller coaster tonight.
We have.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna send you over to
You're yawning already.
the serves. Yeah.
You're yawning
Well,
already.
it's psychological because I'm not even tired. It's just because I know the show's over. So like, I don't know. I expect to feel tired, so my mind is like, you should yawn. And I'm not tired. I'm not remotely
I know
tired.
it's gonna wake you up. I know it will wake you up.
You dickhead. Absolute dickhead. You're a dickhead! Okay, I need to find a way of, like, making that not a thing anymore. Because that's not acceptable. This is totally unacceptable.
Okay, done.
Look, we had a nice not misogyny bit. Don't make me end with a misogyny bit.
Who are you throwing us over to now? Surfs?
Yeah. Well, on YouTube, yeah. Are they going on? I can't see them on Twitch. Do they go on Twitch anymore? I literally. Oh, there they are. Okay, well, fuck it. We'll go to them as well then. I don't know what they're doing. Oh, fuck's sake. My mind has disintegrated, Krista. Exactly. You've thrown me off. I'm usually so fucking professional, Christy.
Normally, you are, yes, the pillar of professionality.
Destroyed my brain with your womanly wiles.
Bing, 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 bing.
True. Okay, everyone, go and say hello to Lance, and I don't know what they're watching. Oh, they're doing stuff about the Canadian election. Makes sense. What with them being a Canadioid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Canadoid?
I don't know. Anyway, go and say hello to
Canadoid?
Snow Mexican.
Snow Mexicans.
Either way, you're getting tariffed, so you know.
Yep, we're all getting tariffed.
You get a tariff, and you get a tariff. Everybody
Basically.
gets that tariff,
Basically.
including the fucking penguins. Anyway, go and check out Christy Winters on all of the platforms.
Yay!
Go and do that. It's goodbye from me and goodbye from Christy. Say blum 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 blum, Christy.
Oh shit, I'm unprepared. Sorry. Oh no, it's a different thing. No, I didn't forget my. No, oh, fuck you, Gmail. Okay, bye, Christy.